This is a precursor to going over to the First Baptist Church in Salem, which we're going to be later on looking at the movement, which is in quite a deplorable state uh, from lack of maintenance, from increased dirt and usage over the years. This is actually the Fenwick's Colony town clock since 1750 here in Salem. So we're here. We're going to take a walk up into the steeple. But just to give a brief history about the clock, town clocks are very, very important in the history of society, going back some 2,500 years of all the important cities in the world, whether it be London, Paris, and even here in Salem. The town clock in Salem, again, started in 1750 at a different location. Fire had taken that down. The bell had fallen. A second location was erected. Again, 100 years later, the clock tower burned. The bell dropped. Each time the bell dropped, it cracked. In 1848, the town erected this church tower behind me, and simultaneously the Baptist Church was looking for a new home, and it built its church essentially around the bell tower. So this is actually John Fenwick's town clock of 1750 stands here. It is the same bell. The bell has been recast 4 times as a result of falling and cracking. But as you can see, the bell is not hooked up. It's not been running for a number of years. No one seems to know the last time this bell has worked. But if we can look down here at the pivot and bushing point of the condition it's in, it's quite deplorable. This is a brass and bronze bushing in here. This whole thing is going to have to be disassembled, cleaned, and if it's insufficient, it's going to have to be returned on a lathe and milling machine. This mechanism was actually dropped in the top of the tower when the spire was rebuilt after a hurricane had hit it a number of years ago, about 50 years ago. So the new mechanism came from the top. Traditionally, when you're doing a restoration on a mechanism like this, it is totally disassembled, brought down the ladder, but unfortunately, it will not fit down through any of these openings. So the whole restoration is going to have to occur on the top floor in place. We're at a restructured tower that's been restructured probably in the 1940s in the last catastrophe of the tower, which had a hurricane blow the steeple off. And as you can see, we have steel construction was put in place then. It's doing a bit of corrosion, some rust forming. In 35 years of being a horologist, I've never seen a mechanism in this deplorable condition. Custom made in 1948 for this tower. They sent a representative down. But just a word, prior to this, in this exact location in 1902, and I'm sure many of you out there have clocks or have heard of Seth Thomas. Seth Thomas was the most famous known clockmaker in America since the beginning of clockmaking here. Seth Thomas personally walked up this chicken ladder in 1902. He measured this, built himself a tower clock. But that, again, went down in a fire in 1946. Okay, so we do no longer have the Seth Thomas movements. We have an E. Howard sitting here. E. Howard was in business for over 100 years, and it was the premier tower clock for the last 200 years in America. But you can just see the dirt and grime that's from, number one, from the wood that's been sitting here. And actually, there's ambient air floating through here full of dust. And someone unabashedly came in and they lubricated it, who knows, with oil, WD-40, and it's just chewing and grinding the gears and the chains and levers. The first thing we're going to have to do up here and talking to the care and maintenance individual is he's going to have to remove and clean up this environment. If we're going to endeavor on getting this mechanism back to new in a full-blown restoration, we need a clean working space. And keep in mind that this mechanism will last literally to the end of time if it's properly maintained. Clocks like this were very important pillars of the community. It creates an ability and an environment in the community for people to get together, a time to worship, a time to work, and to hear that bell. It's a soothing thing, and to know that we're one of the few communities that have had a town clock. This E. Howard mechanism was placed here. They lifted it via V crane with the steeple off, put it here, and then they put the steeple on. At the same time, in 1948, no one wanted to pay for this movement after the last fire. So within 24 hours, the mayor at that time put up over half of the money for this mechanism, and they took a pan down Market Street in Salem. And by the end of Sunday, the very next day, this fire occurred at 10 o'clock on Saturday night. The very next day, they had enough money from going door to door. So the people of the community stood up. They donated. The people on Broadway came up, and what they did was they took donations, and these 4 beautiful ground glass white dials going back to 1948, where the monies were donated for them, and the hands were also donated to have the hands custom made, custom filed. But the most important thing is the history that this bell has seen. And it's been found in documentation that in 1776, on July 4th, this bell, manually by hand, was rung for 24 hours straight to declare our independence from Britain. At the end of the Civil War, when Lincoln declared end of the Civil War, this bell was rung by hand 24 hours straight. And at President Lincoln's assassination, the bell was rung 24 hours straight. And when President Kennedy was shot and assassinated, it rang for an hour straight. So it has quite the storied history here in our small community of Salem. So it's a time we stand up, and this is going to be our bellflower. This is going to be our beacon project here in Salem.
In 2017, horologist Gregg Perry documented the deteriorating condition of Salem's historic town clock, a bell that has marked pivotal moments in American history since 1750. In the years since, progress toward restoration has been limited. Like many historic preservation efforts, funding and long-term commitments remain a challenge as communities balance the needs of today with the responsibilities of the past. Yet the clock still stands, and the story it carries endures, waiting for the moment when it may once again be heard.